Wynter Show, live, local, topical, and relevant. And right now on the phone with me is a former, I think in my mind he's from New York, so he's always a detective first grade in the NYPD, but he is retired, 20 years of experience in law enforcement, investigation, and executive protection. He actually signed to unsolved murder cases, including the late Notorious B.I.G. and Tupac Shakur murders in New York City, and he is a New Yorker. He's my guy. Welcome to the Shelley Wynter Show. Derrick Parker of Parker Security, Parker Consultant Group. I'm sorry. Derrick, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So let's with this whole Puffy thing, the raid. Tell us what your thoughts are on the raid. I think many of us are fascinated by the fact that it wasn't local law enforcement and it was a coordinated raid in L.A., Miami, and New York by Homeland Security. What can we read from that?
Well, New York is probably the lead in this, and basically this is coming out of New York, the Southern District in New York, and apparently, there's been some allegations about sex trafficking and drugs and guns, and these complaints or these lawsuits sort of probably triggered that with people that were cooperating with the government and telling them about, Diddy's comings and goings and things that he might be involved with, and that's what this led to the raid.
So, now some people are talking about this kid that was picked up in Miami, supposedly a 25-year-old kid. He went to Syracuse. I went to Syracuse. I remember him as a guard at Syracuse University. Kind of embarrassment for the university and the program. But do you think everything is about this kid, or is he just
no? Basically, he got caught with some. It seems like maybe some edible candies and cocaine. But in Florida, if he had felony weight of coke, Florida is very serious about that. So that probably would land him in jail, which it did. But the edible candy stuff was nothing. But the big picture was that he was a confidant of Diddy's or someone that maybe worked for him that might have provided or had drugs. That's what that was about.
So that's not part of the big picture.
Well, it is. It is part of the big picture, but it's not the biggest thing right now.
Gotcha.
They can always go back to him later on,
Yes.
That's how the government works. They'll get back to him later on.
We're on the phone with Derrick Parker, former NYPD detective first class. And let me tell you guys something. I'm from New York. To become a detective first class is huge. So congratulations to you, Detective Parker. You worked the cold cases of Biggie and Tupac. Is any of what's going on with Puffy have anything to do with those murders?
Well, Puffy's in the middle. Let's just say this. Puffy has some in the Tupac murder. He does have some kind of involvement, whereas he knows all about what went on probably in Las Vegas and Los Angeles. The Biggie case, he was Biggie's handler basically, and he was out there at the time. So yes, there is a connection there between those two homicides. Also I did the homicide here in New York. I did the Jam Master Jay. I just finished testifying.
Yes, sir.
In the Jam Master Jay case here in New York, and two of the men that I wrote about in my book, they got convicted recently.
And so this case, right? Because I've been telling people I don't think this case has necessarily to do with the Cassie girl or underage boys or anything like that. I think this case is bigger than that. Am I right, or what do you think?
You're right. You're absolutely right. Listen, the government is definitely one thing about the government here is they're looking for something bigger. Puffy apparently had videos or maybe photographs and things in his house, and I think they want to get their hands on those videos and see who was where and who did what, and what big people, whether they be celebrities or most influential people, were at some of these parties or events or things that he might have blackmailed people on. This is what they're saying.
And so that becomes a question for many of us on the outside who are saying, hey, are they collecting this evidence to find out about other people in order to bury it and make Puffy the fall guy, or are they looking for this evidence of other people, more powerful people involved in order to go after them?
Well, it could be that. I mean, nobody knows what the government's what they're up to right now, but this borders on the Epstein case. If you remember what the woman who got arrested, I think that was dealing with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Right, Maxwell, right.
Yep.
She was dealing with, and this is borderlining on that. as far as these tapes are concerned, because it seems like that's what the concern is. But also, the government has these allegations that some of these cooperators are people that were are very upset with Diddy and made these claims about sex trafficking, about the drugs, about the guns. And by the way, they did recover guns out of the house. They
Yes.
took a gun out of the house. So, this is just the start of a bigger investigation. And right now, the government's not done with this case, believe me, not at all.
And so for guys like me, right? I'm on the right. I'm going to, I'm voting for Republicans, right? Biden
Right.
is a Democrat. Puffy did vote or die, very involved with the Democrat Party. Many of my friends and on our side of the fence, we're like, oh, this is to bury information, not to let it out. I know I asked that in a different way earlier, but what assurances do you know as a former detective? Does that happen? Do things get buried in order to protect people?
Not necessarily, because things work. Believe me, things work in mysterious ways. But stuff like that gets taken into custody has to be vouched. It has to be earmarked that you took it from the residence, and then photographs and pictures have to be cataloged as well. So I can't see them doing that, because there was a raid, and then there's going to be a lot of people that know about these videos or pictures if they come out. So it's going to be hard to hide that.
One of my co-workers, he's on before me 4 to 7. One of the interesting questions he asked me, I want to ask you, is they know where Puffy is. How come he hasn't been arrested yet?
They're not ready to arrest him yet. Believe me, I know they're in touch probably with his attorneys, and his attorneys are like, hey, look, are you looking to arrest my client? And he's probably telling them, no, not right at the time. We're investigating. But make him available if we need him. And that's the agreement they probably made with his attorneys. I'm only giving you my opinion
Right.
how it works. I would talk to his attorneys and say, look, if we had enough on him to indict him, then you would have to surrender him. Or, we would find ways of getting him anyway.
So this is kind of a case building. The raids were to build a case. We've been surveilling you. We've got the information from witnesses. Now we've gotten stuff from your home. Now we're putting our case together, and at some point there will be an arrest made.
That's exactly how it happens.
Wow. Derrick Parker, former detective first grade in New York City. The name of his company is Parker Consultant Group. He was one of the original hip-hop cops, started that thing. Before I let you go, I got to ask you about that. I know a lot of rappers, very good friends of mine. The hip-hop cop thing, right? It was a real thing. Many of them were mad about it. Can you talk about why that was started?
Okay. The reason that it was started was that, the commissioner and the police chief here, they asked me, there was a lot of crimes involving rappers. The rappers were perpetrators in some cases. They were victims. There was a lot going on at a fast pace. And the police department here back in the 90s, they didn't know what was going on. And they were like, we need somebody who knew about this stuff. So the deputy commissioner of communications, operations, Ed Norris, knew who I was. And he said, look, Derrick, I need you to really sit down and tell me what's going on with this community. So I explained to him what was going on, the East Coast, West Coast, war between Puffy and Suge, and, Tupac and Biggie. And I told him about all the incidents that happened, not only here, but in Atlanta, Miami, and places like that. I even went down to these cities. I went down to your city, Miami, and talked to cops in different cities about these cases. So the unit had to be started because there was so much going on. And then the police department here is more proactive. We're not reactive. We're proactive. And they wanted to get a hand on what was going on with the violence in the rap music industry.
My man. Derrick Parker, former detective first grade, NYPD, Parker Consultant Group. I appreciate you so very much, my brother. And if we can reach back out to you as this case progresses, we would love to do that if we can.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. And you guys take care down in Atlanta. I love Atlanta.
And tell people the name of your book.
It's Notorious C.O.P. It's the inside story of the Biggie, Tupac, and Jam Master Jay cases.
The Notorious C.O.P. by Derrick Parker. Get that book now if you want to learn about the inside about those 3 murders, of the one of which has just been solved, the Jam Master Jay, which you helped on. God bless you, my brother. Keep up the great work, and we will be back in touch.
All right, take care.